Okay, so this one because I was thinking today is about free money, and I mean, what is free money? Well, free money is, I'm looking at how you can differentiate a system that is created by, that's in place for mankind here on the earth. And one that man creates. And one of these systems that man has created is this thing called money. Um, in most of the processes that we study here, how things work and how things uh, carry a line down in time. In other words, um, have children or somehow the water evaporates and then it comes. All these things, they're all very exquisitely, sometimes ineffably. I mean, you can't really quite figure it out. I mean, for instance, in the cell, we learn through about design by death, where instead of just making the one item the cell needs, it might make 10 or something, and then I'm just speaking as using simple numbers as an example, and then once it has one or two really good ones, maybe one extra one around, then the other cells are the other whatever they are in there, either originate, they seem to get a signal from elsewhere, not from themselves but from some other cell, and then they die. They kill themselves off. They stop. An amazing thing. All this kind of exquisite stuff. Who knows where that signal? Where does that signal come from? Wow, that's amazing. Death by design. You can look it up in the TED shows. It's quite fascinating. But anyway, so in nature we find all these incredible processes. They're very exquisite. And in them, we can see generally, mostly, I mean, there's a kind of completion. In other words, nothing is lost. The way water is, created, water is incredible how the water system works on the earth. And, the water isn't lost. Things don't kind of wind down to nothing. But with man, with the process of money, there's an interesting thing about money. I'm going to call this free money. What is free money? Well, let's say that you build you manufacture and you make dolls, and so you get together and you do all those things. We won't go through all the process, but all the processes that are involved in making a doll, and you get the machines, and you manufacture the doll, and you pay people to help you do this and make the dolls, hopefully, and stuff like that. And to promote the dolls and put them in the stores and everything else and so on. But at the point of sale for you, the manufacturer, let's say that all the costs that you have had, including your salary, your wages, and everything else, was $5, and that includes overhead. It includes everything, including overhead, wages, and so on. So now you say, well, okay, so the item is actually worth $5. That's its actual worth. Okay. Now we can carry this a little bit further. We can say, okay, then it has to be distributed, sent to the store, and these people have, they have costs, and they hire people too, and so forth and so on. They have overhead. But by the time it gets to the store, let's say that the actual worth, including the store's costs, actual worth of the item is $8.50. Okay. Now then, what if I sell the item for $9.50? I sell it for $1 more than it actually costs, a fair price for everything that's involved with that doll. I'm selling it for $9.50. And there's this word they use. I don't know where it first came from. Maybe it was. You can imagine. Anyway, it's called profit. It's free money. Nobody earned the money. But now, after all, you do have the item. So there's a marketplace kind of a sad thing where you say, well, we're the only ones that have, so we can charge whatever we want. So why sell it for just what we made it for? As if your wages weren't enough. So you got your wages, they were fair wages, but now you want something more than what was fair. Because for some reason you think that you deserve it. Now, so you sell the item for $9.50 instead of the $8.50. So that's free money for you. It's because you did all the stuff, and now you're in a position so you can demand free money. But the person who buys it from you is going to have to lose $1 of all of their stuff that they have, that they've gotten, their work and everything else, and they're going to trade, just give it to you. So now they have at home a doll, which is worth, actually, in fact, $8.50, but they paid $9.50, so they lost $1 and you gained $1. So there's a kind of a sinkhole process going on here. And then suppose that besides that, the person that bought it from you, the buyer, the consumer, also when they worked, actually their work was actually worth $8.50 an hour, but their boss, because of the market and everything else, wasn't fair with them and didn't pay them what their work was actually worth. Paid them $7.50 instead. Okay? So now they're in the hole $2 because they didn't get what they were worth, and they also had to pay for the doll an extra $1 that it wasn't worth, in fact. Okay. So it's kind of a sinkhole. So you can imagine how ultimately this kind of thing where, we did some work for you, but we want more than the actual worth of the work. We want another little bit, and so forth and so on. You can see how this can kind of sink into a situation where the ones who are making the money, making the free money. And as they say, there is no free lunch. Well, I'm here to suggest, and let's, kind of want to think along, let's do some thinking about, is there any free money? Is it free? Do you get it for free? Somebody has to make up that difference. Somebody has to give value where there is no value. So this system does not balance itself out. It doesn't come around. Suppose it's a guy that bought the woman for, let's say a mother buys this doll, or father, for the for their daughter. Let's say that they're being paid a fair wage, which is, $8.50 an hour. And so the doll, which is worth $8.50, is sold to them for $8.50. Then nothing is lost, is there? There's no loss. There's no sinkhole of loss. Because after a while, it just keeps going on. The people that are buying stuff are going to end up with less value than so they're going to end up paying out more and getting less. So then they're going to be in a debt situation. The $8.50 they had, we should have bought the $8.50 doll, But no, they only got $7.50, so they had to pay an extra dollar, and they lost a dollar because the person on the other end got free money. So they're now in debt. They've now lost $2. So maybe they would have to borrow that money, and you know how that goes. And so then they borrow the $2, but the guy that gives them the $2, maybe to lend out that money. Let's take money as a unit of energy. Let's consider it that way. We won't go into all the mischief and everything else that's involved with money. We'll just say that the money is a unit of energy. So this guy who lends you the money, he says, well, I'm going to lend it to you. Now, suppose the cost to him to lend you the money, including his wages and everything else, is he's going to lend you $2, and so the cost to him is going to be, including the risk and everything else, is going to be a quarter over the normal length of time that it would take you to pay back the $2. Maybe just be a week, but you know, just keeping things simple. Now, it should be a quarter. That's the real cost. But he charges you 50 cents because he wants to make a profit. He wants free money too. Everybody wants free money. Now let's just talk about so now the you know the as they say, as my friend says, kind of crude language, said, well, you know, in the lease, instead of the leasee and the leaseor, there's the fuckor and the fuckee, you know, the one that gets, and so the person that's on the other end of this stick has now lost $2.50. So in other words, somebody is losing money. So couldn't you just summarize this whole thing and say that when people start getting their free money, it's not free, and so there's a bunch of people that, you know, are kind of don't care or kind of are delusional or something, or are misinformed, and so they get free money. And then there's a whole bunch of other people who lose money. You know, they get, you know, it's not only just even for them, it's a loss. So let's talk a little bit about how that system is working. So now, on the Earth, as you know, things are pretty much arranged so that there's an energy kind of equivalent. Efforts are made, and you know, they're correctly you know, they're rightly directed, right? They produce a result. So you chop some wood, and the rule of life, you know, the way that it's set up, is that, let's say you swing the axe 50 times using so much energy, all the formulas, figure it all out and everything. But you don't need the formulas. You can say, well, you know, it takes you an hour to chop, you know, up an average sized, you know, group of 3 trees. So it takes an hour. It'd be pretty good, but suppose you can, or you know, let's give you some more. Let's say, you know, just with an axe, it takes you an hour. So you spend an hour chopping that tree up, and you get, that's the result. That's what you get. That's real. But suppose that somebody comes along and say, okay, you're going to chop up that tree like that. I'll tell you what, every time you do, I'm going to give you some free wood. I'm going to give you a third of a tree more. Wow, it's like free trees. So now a new element enters into the ecology, the whole system that's going on the Earth, which is there is something that's free. In other words, there is something that you can have that's going to be, you know, get you this and that and every other kind of thing, because money can buy you actually lots of things with money. You're gonna be able to get something without making an effort from all that free money, okay, that you consider to be free. Of course, it's not free, as we've been talking about. But So now you develop a whole new view of life. Instead of kind of a simple thing, which is actually good for you, which is like here. Now they say that on the other side, I don't want to get all mystical with you and everything, but they say on the other side, there's a big difference with here is that you don't have to make efforts. Efforts are not required. But in the physical universe, in order to get something, you have to make effort. So here you are, you're over here, and you found a way. It's like heaven. It's like being on the other side. You can get something, and you don't have to make an effort. Wow. Of course, you're not on the other side, are you? So it's a little strange. And since there are, actually, I'm suggesting to you, it seems, that's been my experience. I've been here a while. It looks like it to me. You can ask other people, you can consider yourself, whatever. But I mean, no, there is no thing where you don't do anything in the world, and then you just get something. Unless the Almighty gives you something, He helps you out from time to time, for sure, lots. But basically that's the outward. That's the rule. That's how it is. I'm going to carry this rock 50 feet. And that's how I carried it. I don't get to carry the rock 50 feet, and there's some 50 feet, and there's some kind of special thing, and it actually goes 75 feet. So now these people that have found this way, using something they devised themselves, money, and then kind of abusing it, you could say, because they're suggesting, if you consider it to be, say, a unit of energy or have certain value, they're suggesting, well, yeah, but you can use it very easily in a way so that it has it gets more value. It has more value than it has. And so now they've found a way out. They've opened the door. And so now they don't have to do it, which is a big part of being here. It's a big part of it, that being here requires a certain kind of discipline, because anything that you want, you have to make efforts to get it. Efforts have to be made. So now they've found a way out, and then, boy, that's so much fun. It's like heaven. Wow, we can go over here and we can have this free money. Just you have to do this thing, sure, but make profits. That's what, yeah, making profits. What a sanitized word that is, Now, we know this because, like, lots of us, many people, and it comes up all the time, like, with your son or something, you get something, and or your daughter, and you bought something and they want to buy it from you. I mean, when they get older, sometimes these things happen. They want to buy something. Well, sure, I don't know. I paid $5 for it. Just give me that $5. I mean, you'll take a loss on it. But you don't like to make a profit. Well, I mean, some of you probably do. Well, I got it for $5. I want to make a profit. Of course, so I'll sell it to you for $5.50. That's fair. It's fair in the world. In the world of man, this odd idea about things, sure, but it's not. So we don't do it usually. I mean, mostly we don't. We don't do that. So this whole thing, kids, I'm suggesting to you, think about it, you come to your own conclusion, of course. But I'm thinking, that money thing, that's a pretty tricky deal, and it involves a kind of sinkhole, and sure enough, what happens? What's happening? You get all these people who are willing to do this thing, get the free money. They got the free money, and the rest of the people have gone into debt. Now you have to ask yourself, would this have happened if they didn't, I'm not going to go on. Anyways, I thought it was kind of interesting because, somewhere in the wisdom, and I like to think that the Almighty, will kind of make somebody say something, kind of an insight. They'll say something like they'll say, well, there is no free lunch, see. And it has a kind of, it has a source to it, doesn't it? It's like you can't just walk right by that. You have to kind of think. And then, mostly you'll think, well, yeah, there's some truth in that, see? What is truth? The truth, it's, the Almighty has to just, so somebody says this and it says, so there's all these little sayings in the culture. Now I'm talking more onto another subject, slightly related subject, but, it's like there's, as you live, you'll see these little sayings here and there. They last, common sayings, little insights. Where did they come from? Anyhow, that was that. We'll chat about free money, or addressing the question of the free lunch, which we know there is no free lunch. And of course, these aren't things. Either you understand, you get it, or you don't get. Because of course, you could say, well, sure, there's free lunch. What are you talking about? Took my friend for lunch the other day. I paid for it. They got a free lunch. No, that's not what happened. That was about love. They loved you, and they cared for you, and you loved them, and you wanted to give them something, so you gave them lunch. They gave you love, and they gave you respect, and they helped you, and they were there for you, and you gave them free lunch. You gave them some food, and there are other less noble things that might bring about a free lunch, and there, according to what I've seen in documentaries, there's a lot of. I'm not going to go there. Okay, that's it. All right, just thing about free lunch. There you go. Bye bye. Okay, so I went over this. And I was just watching this talk, so there's a few additions and things. I wanted to make. I said that was that Death by Design. You could go and see that at TED. Well, actually, it's not at TED. It's in Netflix streaming. It's a documentary called Death by Design. And let's see. So what I'm suggesting here is that because of the weakness and the way that human nature works, that using money as a unit of energy or work, and that's a whole other subject. But doing that, having some kind of vehicle for that would require it would have to be regulated, wouldn't it? So that you get what you're worth, and no more, and no less. Okay, that's just kind of a simple point. And then when I said three, I got some notes here, and so then when I said 3 trees, and then I switched over to 1 tree. I was just trying to be simple instead of saying instead of saying we can do 3 trees, and we'll just say you can do 1 tree in 1 hour, which is probably about right. And then I was mentioning about the cells in the cell. That's not what I didn't mean. That in the cell there are many different little forms of life, and so we're talking about the little forms of life that make things, and then some of them die. So it is the signal comes from the cell, particularly. I don't know where it comes from, but the death signal comes from some other unit. Apparently, from watching the documentary, it comes from some place outside of the unit that's gonna give it up. And it's not the cell. Okay, and so also, though I don't know how appropriate this is, I just want to kind of talk for a minute about what we're doing here. I mean, when I'm talking to you like this, you've seen it before, and what's really going on is it's kind of interesting. I think it's worth mentioning. is that what we're doing here, is an exercise, or the way we're approaching this is kind of to really think as opposed to thinking, and there's a big difference. Um, you know, let me give you an example. So for instance, what you just saw. That's an instance of really thinking, where I'm really looking at this myself as I'm talking to you, and you know, like that. But suppose that instead of really thinking about it, I just thought about it. We're going to make this distinction. So, what would I say if I was just thinking? I wasn't like in control of, I wasn't directing, I wasn't using my mind, but let's say, that my mind was using me. Well, how would that work? Well, I could say, well, okay, here we go. So I'm just going to give you a demonstration. So I say, well, oh, you talk about free money, and of course there is no such thing as free money, but there are different balances and different aspects of things. It's very complicated, and it's not really, something that we need to really think very much about, because it's already in place, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't work out, but we can probably say on the whole that it could work out. Maybe it does. I'm not sure. Blah 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 blah. See, but now I've gone off, and I'm just using whatever the stream, the brain, the mind stream, whatever is coming out there from some place. I don't really know what it is. Whereas, such as an example of something that we can say is like, hey, like when you think, really think. Um, you know, do you like Bob? Well, yeah, I like Bob. Bob's a nice guy. He's a lot of fun. We have fun together. We're gonna go to the party next week. See, that's just forces running through your brain. There's nobody there. Now, let's say if I really think, do I like Bob? Well, yeah, Bob's. I do. He's somebody that I do things with, and of course I don't know him completely, do I? But so I can say that we've been having fun together, and but uh, I don't know if like would really be the word. We're kind of like, we do things together, and I like some of the things that he does, and he likes some of the things that I do. I don't know if we really know each other that well, So it's a more directed process, where the me is involved, not just a bunch of thoughts coming through my brain. Anyway, so I'm not going to, because this is about a different topic, so I'm not going to go any more into that. And then also, I considered that there's an interesting other thing about this that I didn't mention, is if this free money process goes along as it has done, pretty much in the world. But what kind of, like, you end up having two different sides. And, I don't want to say that the loser side is, but on the side of the people who are getting, decided, yeah, this is good, but make free money. Well, of course, it's not fair, is it? If you leave your personal interest out of it, and we find that in life, putting your personal interest doesn't really work very well, because we need to consider, like if with a family, we don't just consider ourselves, do we? So with mankind, we like to be wide, at least wide enough, so we don't just consider ourselves, we consider the whole group of us here. We're all here, all pretty much, all struggling with different things, whether you're rich or poor, whatever you might be, tall or short, smart or stupid, or not very smart, whatever, maybe not stupid, I don't like to use the negative word, but, maybe don't think much or whatever, doesn't mean getting myself into, but so we want to consider everyone. As Google says, first don't harm anyone. That's a kind of a little way of going. Yeah, let's take everyone into account, shall we? You know, um, like, well, lots of things there. So what I was realizing is, see, like, if you, um, so one of the things, the dynamic of this is that the ones that are getting the free money can end up being the ones that are delusional about this, and they're the ones that are unfair. So, and so it's interesting because one of the characteristics or the hallmarks we find, as a kind of evidence of what I'm saying, is you say, well, I don't know, you're just, you're so, biased, and you're so, like, obvious. I see what you're doing here. See, but no, wait a minute, because if you take and you look at the characteristics, the general characteristics. Not everybody's involved with this, of course. I'm just speaking generally, but of people who have lots of money, one of the things that you notice about them right away is that they won't be fair. They don't like to be fair. If you're the maid and you go to work, or let's say you're the scientist and you go to work, and you're very good at what you do and everything, and so your fair wage. Let's take the up. Let's say it's $100,000. That's what. That's a fair wage. It's a fair amount for you. $100,000. Let's say. Well, now, but a lot of times people say, well, we can't give you 100,000, but we can give you 80,000. Because things are tight right now. They'll find a way, and they'll hardly ever, if you said to them, and you were being real and being fair about yourself and your own value, and you were able to know what that was, which is, I'm going to go there, but if you knew what it was, then if they said to you, sure, 100,000, that's fine. That makes perfect sense to me. I agree with you. Yeah, I think 100,000 is right. See, and there was that sort of parity there. Well, you'd probably fall off your chair, wouldn't you? It does happen, sure. But, I'm saying in general, you're going to find the characteristic, kind of the evidence of what I'm talking about, that in fact these people are unfair, is because of the way they behave down the road, that they're known, and they have a reputation for not being fair. They'll do anything at all, but they won't be fair. I was watching, of course, this is a notorious example. I was watching the guy, the CEO of Walmart. I mean, it's so preposterous. These guys. So last year, I don't know, what was it they made? They made some huge amount of money. Was it $3 billion or $13 billion? Gosh, I don't know. Let's say that, let's just be safe. It was like, 13, I don't know, was it? Yeah, I think it was something like that. $13 billion, 12 billion, 13, billion here, billion there. But, and so the guy, the reporter from CNBC is talking to him, he's saying, because, they say that the people that work for them, it's like family, okay? But the people that work for them are really struggling because they're making, minimum wage, or making some, what we call, as you're familiar with, they're not making an unlivable wage. They're not making a livable wage. Some ordinary kind of thing where you could, pay your rent or your mortgage and have a kind of an okay car, and have some space to do a few things. You're working pretty hard. No, they're having to take extra jobs, and they're losing this and that. So they have $13 billion in free money, profits they've made. So, after they've been paid and everything else and gotten all the kind of money that they like to get, why they still have $13 billion in profit. So this guy is sitting there, And the guy, CNBC guys asked him, well, do you think you could, they just want an extra dollar an hour or something. And he starts up, and he goes like, well, it's a delicate situation. It's a very tricky balance. What balance? Take the 13 billion if it's your family and be fair. Everybody work together, and then whatever the result was, let's share it. Let's, give the $13 billion to the employees. Why should you get it? Is it because it's your football? I mean, that's kind of a selfish kind of attitude, isn't it? I'm going to make the rules because it's my football. How retarded are we? No, you help me out. So sure, yeah, here, let's split it up. Even if it's a little painful sometimes. Because, part of you is going like, I want to keep that money, There's always somebody in your system there, or often there is. Okay, so there's that. So I'm just saying. So yeah, I think there's real evidence of what I'm talking about. That an unfairness occurs. The kind of person that does this has no concept of, and does miss the whole idea of let's be fair. I mean, that's not in their lexicon or it's in their system. I'm not blaming them for that. I say that's how they are. They've missed that, and nobody's kind of been able to correct that. So there they go. So then they show that. They show that they're like that by the way they behave later. And I just want to say again, I don't want to be boring, but it's just like I've been. It's like you can count on it. Whatever, just pretty much. I mean, it's wonderful when the exception comes, but it's like whatever they're going to do with you, it's not going to be fair. I mean, almost fair. And usually it's quite unfair. But there's unfairness. A lot of the time, most of the time, I think. Okay, so that's that, and then yeah, because I remember. I don't know. This is getting too long. And it's going over ground that other people that you already know about. That's kind of derogatory. I'm not going to talk about that. And there was one last thing here. I don't know. I think it's getting a bit long. So, yeah, it's a little bit about things. So, suppose that makes the effort get the true result of that effort. And, maybe every now and then a little something more. Somehow things work out. No, but suppose that's the way it was. Let's say you're walking around and you think, well, it'd be nice to have a bicycle and I could ride my bike. And it would be, better. It would be an improvement, you think. But now you've got to make the effort to get that bike. So, would you, if there was no extra free money around, would you get the bike? Or if you made the efforts to get the bike, wouldn't you appreciate it more? And wouldn't you kind of have a tendency to sort of weigh things more so that what was really important? It's interesting how money works. I remember with my kids, I had a whole bunch of them, and they were all pretty close together. And one day I went to, I love those kids, and I wanted to buy them a bunch of toys, and but I couldn't afford it. I mean, the money just wasn't there, and I don't believe in going into debt, and I'm not even going to beg anybody, so I just didn't have the money. But I found a piece of string. There was 4 or 5 of them at that point. And kids, they want something to do. I mean, it's like. So I found some old piece of string somewhere, and I said, yeah, well, here's a piece of string. Oh, string. Oh, they grabbed the string. I think they entertained themselves for, I don't know, you know, 2, 3, I don't know, quite a long time. Hours with that string. They didn't really need a new fancy toy. They're having fun with the string. The string was interesting. It was fascinating. So, there's all these different kind of things that go on with money. And so, yeah, so just to sum up, I'm just saying, yeah, you can have a unit of energy, in my view, in my book, on what I see. Maybe you'll agree with me, Sure, but let's not abuse it to sort of end up in a situation where we get to have fun and they don't. you know, the the zero sum. Zero sum. I'm starting to see from talking about this what it means. See, it's like nothing. There's no energy gained or lost. There's some kind of law that somebody made up about that. That's what we've been kind of talking about. Okay, love you. I hope this was fun and useful, and there you go. So talk to you again soon. Bye bye.